data-driven executive decision-making and then translating that data and those insights and that strategy to the field is something you've had to do at multiple businesses, multiple roles. Is something you obviously get quite good at. Let's take each one of those one at a time. So firstly, can you explain data-driven executive decision-making and how do you think about it? What's your mindset? What's the method and process you use to go about doing that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So that's something that we have been working through really actively at Glassdoor now for a while. There's two different kinds of leaders. There's many different kinds of leaders, but on the topic of data, I think there's two different kinds of leaders. There's leaders who can't make a decision without data, and leaders who, even when they are faced with data, will make a decision based on their gut. Both of those kinds of leaders present their own challenges. So when you have a leader who makes all decisions based on data, you can often end up in a world where you're in data overload. You are producing so many numbers, you're producing so many metrics. And the inherent thing about data is it will always contradict itself. Always. So you can have two metrics that are beautifully defined. The data can be clean and accurate. And I guarantee you, they will at times, if they're aiming to do the same thing or measure the same thing, they will at times contradict themselves. It's just how data works. And especially data, in the world that we live in today, where tech companies collect a ton of data on their users, on their customers, et cetera. And so, in the world where you've got a leader who wants a ton of data and a ton of metrics, you can often end up where you are both using too many resources to produce data and produce metrics. You're just spending too much time on it as a company. Two, you're actually confusing executive decision making. It's very hard to come to a consensus. And then three, you're just kind of at a point where you may truly not know what to do with the business. You need to have data limited enough that there's one or two metrics that you use to drive your decision making, and you don't introduce all this confusion. And so I think those are the watch outs in that first scenario. In the second type of leader, where you have someone who makes decisions based on their gut, you have to really train them to use and trust data. That's really hard to do. It's really hard to get someone who, and this I think especially happens with leaders who are founders or leaders who have been at the company and built the company for a long time. What you'll hear from them is, I know the data says that, but I've been here, I've seen how this company was built. I know, how customers buy X company, how they buy X product. And so that becomes a real uphill battle. And in that instance, I think what you need to do is spend a lot of time thinking about what are the few metrics that are indicative of the business. And then even if it's not a focus of discussion, just bring it up every single week in the management meeting. We're going to look at this metric and then provide the appropriate level of commentary. So that what'll happen is they'll see the business shift and see the metric shift in that direction over time. But that requires a lot of time. There's really no way around just showing that this business went in this direction. Remember that this metric was indicating that about 10 weeks ago. Here's how you marry them.